In this video, we are going to talk about the offline processing in Logic. So if you've ever wondered how it works properly and how to get the maximum out of it, keep watching this video. Let's talk about the offline processing concept. So back in the 90s, when it all started, I remember this period in which the computers were not capable of running many VSTs. We are talking about 95, 96, maybe 97, and they were barely capable of running like 4 audio tracks with just a compressor and an EQ. If you are really lucky, like many, you had a Pro Tools card called a DSP farm or a Pro Tools mix farm card, which would allow you to run a lot more plugins on your CPU. So it would actually discharge your CPU from calculating the plugin processing while you had internal DSP on these cards just doing the math. And the cool thing about the Pro Tools system and the TDM system back in the day is that it came with the Audio Suite plugins. And the Audio Suite plugins were actually the offline versions. So it was very convenient and you could use them in a DAW such as Logic. I remember using that until 2005. It was very convenient. Here we are now in Logic, and of course I'm running a core audio interface. You can do exactly the same. My computer is 12 years old. How can we get this to work properly? First, I took a bass drum from my Primal Impact collection upcoming on my website soon here. That is my kick just looped at the quarter note, and I'm going to just double click on it. And you see I have the perfect waveform, and now there is in the function menu the selection-based processing. And this thing, heaven for someone like me who got to work with Audio Suite plugins, you had to process them one by one. Now with this, you can just add an entire channel strip if you want from Logic, like drum distortion, the ones you can find in the channel strip settings in Logic, or you can add the plugins one by one. But there is something you need to know about this, and I'm going to show you. Even though it's non-destructive and even though it creates a new file replacing the actual file in your arrangement while it keeps the original file, the thing is, when you just click on the plugins, it will add a mono version of the plugin. This is not what you want, of course. You have to use the stereo version or the dual mono. That's another thing that we'll keep for another tutorial, by the way. But let's keep it stereo here. And here is what happens. It opens the exact same stock plugin from Logic. And let's say, let's use the Tube EQ here, the Vintage Tube EQ. And I'm going to apply this thing that we call the Pultec Trick or the Pultec Trick. So you add a little bit of drive here. The low frequency remains at 60 Hertz because it's probably the best thing to do with this Pultec kind of emulation. This one will be completely disabled. I will just focus on this part, this upper part, with the double parallel EQ here. So I'm going to attenuate to remove the bass and boost the bass, the low end, at the same time. And to hear the preview, let's not hit play in your DAW, but let's hit the preview button. Can also remove the bass, obviously. And let's say that I want to disable that. Of course, it creates a boost that I have to correct with a bit of drive and volume reduction here. And here we are. Let's say I want to apply this to the file. It will create a new region with a new file. Let's see what happens. And here we go. So it changed the region color, but as soon as I do, because I'm in my perfect arrangement here that you can get from the Playground and Urban Adventures for free. If I do Option Shift C, it goes back to red, and you see that there is plugin compensation at some point, because yes, 1 is not exactly starting on 1. That is what happens when you use a sample and you just process it with plugins. Sometimes you have a bit of plugin delay here, and you have to compensate it manually. That's the only downside of this trick. I shouldn't have looped it actually, but for the purpose of this is not the end of the world. We're going to manually rectify this by doing this. I'm gonna cut with my command key held, and I will just double click here on the region. We'll cut properly, and then I have a perfect quarter here, perfect quarter node, and I'm gonna loop it, and you see there is no audio effects here, and still everything, the Pultec Trick is applied to my file. It's a different file, and you can actually verify this information by checking the bin with the B key on your keyboard for those interested. And as you see, it's that simple. Let's say I want to take that file. I'm gonna unloop this, because if I do a processing, it will actually do a whole region. And we're gonna go into functions again, selection based processing. Instead of a 2BQ, let's say that I want. This time we're gonna do an entire chain. I made a mistake, you see here. That's the mistake you shouldn't make. Very important if you keep watching this. Always select the compressor or any plugin manually by choosing the stereo version, because by default, don't ask me why, but by default, selection-based processing selects the mono version. Shame on you, Logic. So let's get back to here. Something, we hit the preview button. We just start. So I'm gonna do some parallel compression here with a bit of soft clipping, let's say. I'm gonna emphasize the classic VCA is perfect for that purpose actually, so you don't have to do the thing manually. No auto gain, I insist, very important. Then you do the mix here. Not like this, of course. It's a bit extreme, but that's the click. That's one good thing. Use parallel compression to emphasize the click of your kick. That's something I do every now and then when necessary. There you go. And I'm gonna reduce the output gain. Okay, I've stopped previewing, and I would like to tame the high end. Let's go for that. Let's tame this 5K and up, say, and let's preview again. Let's say I want to bypass all the plugins at once and A/B the preview between no processing at all and these two plugins. Nice. Kind of like it. This is what I want. This is what I'm going for. I just stop previewing and just apply. Boom. And here we go again. Again, it changes colors because it's logic and you know how it goes. It's not perfect, but at least it's doing the job. Alt-Shift-C to change the color according to the channel. And here we go. Here we have a perfect kick, completely EQ'd, compressed, and everything. Let's hear it once again. Really like this kick, by the way. You will see that sometimes it adds a little bit of region space here. Normally it shouldn't, but sometimes it does. In this case, it didn't, thankfully. But in this case, in which case you just double click, just the way I did before, to separate the first quarter note, and then you loop it, and then you have a perfect kick. Of course, let's go for 4 bars here instead of just one. Here, 4 bars. Another cool thing is, I would like to do something completely crazy with this. And let's say I want to empty the channel strip. So I will remove all effect plugins at once. And now I'm going to use the step effects, the stereo version, again, always. And we're going to preview this. And let's say I want a techno kind of drive like this. Just a little bit of feedback with the delay. I do that with the delay because it's probably the best thing to do. And I don't want any low cut in this case. And you see I have this gate mix. This is my default setting for step effects and logic, and you see that I can actually sidechain the resulting thing, which is really cool, but it applies on the entire thing, which is not what I want. So I just want to apply this depth and sidechain effect on the delay because it's going to clash. Well, I do this instead and change on the master. And then just rebalance the master between the delay only plus the entire chain and this. So shall we go for it? Let's go for it. And let's just apply this to a single quarter note again. And we'll see what happens. Again, change colors, and you see that here you have the delay printed to your audio file. Of course, sometimes you will need to avoid clicks. I like kicks, but in this case, I would like to get rid of them. Just use the fade tool. Just apply a tiny little bit of fade out here at the end of your file, and then you just reloop it, and you have a rolling techno kind of effect here. But at 120 BPM with this kind of kick, it's not gonna be the full effect. I could actually keep applying this, or best thing, let's go for overdrive. You will see. And you know what? Let's add some reverb too. Always Logic stock plugins. I stopped using everything else because, except for a few exceptions, but everything else, I just make sure that you're using not the mono version, but the stereo version. And here is, once again, the evidence that you have to pay attention to what you're doing. So now here's the thing. I use a mono version of the plugin as a first instance, and here it's locked to mono. So you have to do this. Remove every plugin now. This is why you always use the stereo version. I wish that Apple could just get this sorted because it's very annoying, but okay, let's. And I'm gonna use the mono maker. And here we go. I think we're pretty good here, and with here I hit play, and you see I cannot preview the plugins. You really have to use the preview. I see also that the there is a thing here with the kick going right. Let's say I want to bypass the plugin. Is it coming from my file? No, not from the overdrive. It's coming from the chroma verb. So let's see how we can get this sorted. It's good to have a preview of this in Logic when doing selection-based processing. So I'm happy with this. I'm gonna apply. And look at this. I've got everything printed right away into audio. And I can just do the same thing once again. Apply a little tiny bit of fade out here at the end. And I got a perfect loop for kicks. And I can do a lot of things. Let's say now I want to reapply that Pultec Trick to boost the low end because I lost a lot of low end because of the overdrive plugin. Let's say, hey, section-based processing, bypass, remove all effects plugins here. And now I'm going for the 2BQ, which is here in my case, here, the stereo version. Bypass that. I just do boost here, attenuation, drive. Let's preview that. Volume is way too loud. See, that's the one thing I should always mention also when doing selection-based processing or offline processing. You never, I say never hit the red, or it's printed to your file. So never do that. But regardless, here I'm gonna lower the volume. This is why I like this drive thing here on the right. And let's re-preview that. That's too much. You see, the more drive you add, the less low end you have. That's the thing. And so you have to boost, and that's all the low end that we lost. And now we are back to it. And everything is printed to the audio file. It's really practical when designing sounds from recording. Like I did this kick drum with my drum brute impact from Arturia. Was really happy with it, but I was looking for more extra processing. Well, this is an option. Instead of relying on plugins, bouncing in place and everything, just use that. That's it for this video. I hope you liked it. See you in a further episode of Logic tutorials on my channel. Please consider subscribing if you like this video, by the way, and see you